In this video, we're going to learn how we can generate and use macro code to automate certain Excel actions. And we'll start by looking how to generate actual macro code. And we're going to consider the following three methods. Firstly, recording a macro. You can move to your developer tab and use the commands for record macro, as well as setting the option to use relative references or not. And we're going to have a look at a quick example of how to do this. Here we have a table, and we would like to apply the following custom sort. And eventually, we'll attach that macro to this button so that a user can simply click and have all of those sort levels done automatically. So all we need to do is click on record macro, and I'm going to leave this use relative references switched off. We can call this custom sort, and we can even apply a shortcut key, for example Control Shift and S for sort. Let's store this in this workbook, and once we press OK, you will notice that the record button has now changed to a stop recording button. Or when you are finished, you can also click in the bottom left hand corner. Now let's apply this sort, moving to data, choosing sort. And since we've already got everything pre-set up, we can simply hit OK. And now I'm going to press stop. And to prove what's going on, I've got the VBA window open. And in our module 1, all of those steps that we took were recorded. There was our selection of cell B101. But as you can see, the macro recorder records every step very literally. This is one method of generating all of this VBA code. We'll get back to attaching this to an object in a moment. Another way of getting macro code is to take that from another workbook. So for example, if I open up the VBA window using Alt and F11, we've got the current workbook that we are working in, and I've opened up a brand new empty workbook. If I wanted to copy the modules that contain VBA code, I can actually simply click and drag downwards. And as soon as I release, we now have that module copied into this workbook. So as you can see, it's as easy as opening the workbook that contains the macro code and clicking and dragging into your own workbook. Alternatively, method 3 is to use copy and paste. I can simply copy code from any kind of text, move to the Visual Basic editor. We can create a brand new module and hit paste. Be sure to make sure that your copy starts with the word sub and ends with end sub, where sub stands for subroutine. Now that we have this code within our workbook, it is completely usable. And I'm going to remove this since we already have this macro stored. And you'll notice that macros are not simply about automating repetitive tasks, but in fact, they can add some additional functionality that we are unable to do with regular Excel. For example, this macro that we just copied and pasted brings up a message box when we click on See the Solution. As we can see, we are unable to do this with regular Excel. Next, let's have a look at how to actually run the macro. We can access a list of all macros by clicking on the Developer tab and moving to the Macros command. But as you'll see, the shortcut is Alt and F8. From here, we can choose from all the macros that are available, or simply in this workbook, or our personal macro workbook. You can either double click on the one that you want or click Run. You can also assign a keyboard shortcut like we did a moment ago during the recording phase. Or if you'd like to add one after the fact, you can choose the macro, press Options, and assign that particular shortcut. Since we assigned that shortcut key, let's change the order of this. And now let's press Control Shift and S. And as we can see, that runs the macro. Lastly, let's have a look at assigning a macro to an object. And you can simply add a shape, add some text, and this creates a user-friendly button. Right-click, move down to Assign Macro, and once again we have a list of all the macros in this workbook. I'm going to assign the custom sort. Now, as we hover over the shape, we notice the pointing cursor. Let's go ahead and change one of these sort options to make sure that this sort works correctly. Clicking on Custom Sort runs that macro. So in summary, we've looked at three methods of generating macro code, being recording macros, copying from other workbooks, or simply copying and pasting text. We've then seen how to run macros using Alt F8, assigning the macro to a shortcut key, or assigning to an actual object. We'll see you in the next video.